welcome to One Man's Movies Films of the Year 2024. Yesterday I posted the films in my number 20 to 11 slots, and you can check the link in the notes on this video in order to find that. But here I am now going to run down my top 10 films of the year. Will you agree? Will you disagree? We will almost certainly disagree with some of them, but here goes.
Every time I survived the war zone, I thought I was sending a warning home. Don't do this. But here we are.
There's some kind of misunderstanding here. What? Well, you're American, okay?
Okay. What kind of American are you?
You don't know?
At number 10, I've got Alex Garland's Civil War. This paints a horrifying picture of a dystopian America with a US president desperately clawing on to a third term in office against mounting public unrest. Yeah, as if that could ever happen. Kirsten Dunst plays the lead role of a photojournalist, with rising star Kaylee Spaney impressing as her enthusiastic protege. But it's the short cameo by Dunst's husband, Jesse Plemons, that really sticks in the mind. It wouldn't surprise me if this short appearance generated a Best Supporting Actor nomination.
If I made you the first woman ever to lead an overseas mission, the whole world would look to you as proof of what woman can or cannot accomplish.
If we are to build an empire of hope, my sisters, it seems we must first conquer New York.
At my number 9 slot, I have Cabrini. As with Young Woman and the Sea at my number 15 slot, this is another true story about an extraordinary woman facing up to the patriarchy of America's past. It tells the story of Mother Cabrini, who struggles to set up a mission for the homeless in a marvellously visualised 1889 New York. Made by Angel Studios, this slipped through cinemas pretty well unnoticed back in March, but it is now available to rent on streaming services, and you can get it on both Apple TV and Prime Video in the UK for just £1.99. Rent it, it's terrific.
This is the correct length. Uniforms to your knees.
It shall be my constant endeavor to abide by the rules of my school.
Be careful with boys. Don't talk to them more than necessary.
Are you jealous?
No one interested me ever. Who's this?
And my number 8 slot is Girls Will Be Girls. This year has been a terrific year for female directors, bringing films to the screen with strong female characters. This is the case with Girls Will Be Girls. Coming of age and sexual awakening films have been done many times before, but Sushili Talati's film, set in a mixed boarding school high in the mountains of the northern Indian region of Uttarakhand, just does it to perfection. It features a brilliant central performance by the delightful Preeti Panigrahi in her feature debut. The sexual content is delicately done, but has the best masturbatory use of a stuffed toy since Ling Ling the panda in Booksmart.
What happened to her eye? That fell off way before anything happened between us.
But in addition, the film sizzles with sexual tension and unsaid things happening off screen, such that it really plays out like a bit of a thriller. It had a very limited release in UK cinemas, but you can now find it available to rent on streaming platforms, including Prime Video and Sky Store.
My family's been fighting them for centuries.
Your blood comes from dukes and great houses. Here, we're equal. What we do for the benefit of all.
Well, I'd very much like to be equal to you.
Maybe I'll show you the way.
From Girls Will Be Girls, an indie film with a tiny budget, my number 7 is a blockbuster with a $190 million budget. Dune Part 2, directed by Denis Villeneuve, is a science fiction spectacular and very exciting with it. The rendering of the sandworms is particularly impressive, so I'd have thought that this was probably a favourite for the VFX Oscar. Although with that being said, I also predicted that Hans Zimmer's score might win the Oscar, and that hasn't even been nominated in the long list of 20 film scores, which feels like an utter crime.
Have you ever dreamt of a better version of yourself? Younger, more beautiful, more perfect.
And my number 6 slot is The Substance. There are some films that stick in the mind long after you've seen them, and The Substance is one of those. With yet another great female director in the form of Coralie Farjat, this satirical body horror shocked audiences in cinemas around the world. It sees a brilliant Demi Moore grasping for a solution to aging and getting a lot more than she bargains for through an horrific transformation into the young and sexy form of Margaret Qualley. The film also sports a massively creepy turn from Dennis Quaid. The film went hugely over the top for me in the finale in a Carrie-esque sort of way. Otherwise, it might have been higher up in my top 10.
As a child, my world was forever changed. My mother was magnificent. And he took it all from me.
Who do we have here?
She's from a place of abundance. This is our destiny.
My childhood, my mother, I want them back.
Into my top 5, and at number 5 I have Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Like Dune Part 2, this science fiction is pure big screen entertainment. The veteran George Miller is again in the chair, and this charts the origin story of Furiosa, the striking character played by Charlize Theron in Mad Max Fury Road. This time it's the wonderful Anya Taylor-Joy playing the younger version of the character, with a scenery-chewing Chris Hemsworth playing the big baddie Dementus. With characters like Scrotus and Rectus, and with Dementus swirling bomby knockers around, this was totally mental but enormously entertaining. Also watch out for a brief cameo by Max himself.
You remember Helen from home, Joe? She was at school with us.
It's been 20 odd years. It's funny. What is? This is the first time we've ever talked.
Snoopians against the law.
You like her? You've been hiding away too long.
What is going on with those two?
And my number 4 is Chuck Chuck Baby, a film which I dare say some of you have never heard of. This is a tiny British film, but is one that I fell in love with. Chuck Chuck Baby is written and directed by yet another female director, Janice Pugh, and it scrunches together the gritty reality of a Ken Loach social drama, some of the surrealist whimsy of La La Land, the toe-tapping karaoke nature of Sunshine on Leaf, the dark humour of The Full Monty, and it even leaves you with the uplifting, life-affirming joy of the finale of An Officer and a Gentleman. How's that for a movie cocktail? As a pair of women working in a chicken factory in North Wales, but romantically drawn together, it stars Louise Brealey and Annabelle Scioli, and is simply terrific. Brealey's Oscar reel moment comes early in the film as she sings along to Neil Diamond's I Am, I Said, a passionate cry to validate her self-worth while reducing herself to floods of genuine tears. I had the great joy of meeting Louise Brealey at the BFI earlier this year, but had yet to see this film, which is a great shame, otherwise I would have gushed much more.
Monk, your books are good, but they're not popular. Editors, they want a black book.
They have a black book. I'm black, and it's my book.
You know what I mean.
Look at what they published. Look at what they expect us to write.
I just want to rub their noses in it.
And my number 3 is American Fiction. It's always difficult to juggle these lists between films I've seen and loved early in the year versus those which have only just passed my eyes. This one was a darling of last year's Oscar nominations. It was written and directed by Cord Jefferson, and Jefferson won the Best Adapted Screenplay Oscar, and deservedly so. The script is simply brilliant, featuring the wonderful Jeffrey Wright as Monk, a serious writer told to make his books more black to gain popularity. It's full of charm and wit and is utterly delightful. The out there fourth wall breaking ending wasn't to everybody's liking, but I really enjoyed it. While American Fiction featured strongly in last year's Oscars, my number 2 film will, I'm sure, feature very strongly in this year's awards.
Although we sisters are supposed to be invisible, God has nevertheless given us eyes and ears.
What did you discuss with the Holy Father in that final meeting?
The arrangements were made in Paris.
I should pretend this conversation never took place.
But it has taken place. This is a conclave, it's not a war.
It is a war, and you have to commit to a side.
And my number 2 slot is Conclave. This is only just leaving cinemas at the moment, but Conclave is virtually all set in a single location, the Vatican. The film follows the bureaucratic process of the election of a new pope. Now that doesn't sound very promising for a gripping thriller, does it? But Edward Berger, the director, really delivers with 2 hours of high tension and glorious acting from the 4 principal leads, Ralph Fiennes, Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow and Isabella Rossellini. It's a really strong field for the Oscars this year, but Ralph Fiennes must surely get a Best Actor Oscar nomination and might well go on to win it. If you haven't seen Conclave yet, make sure you do. It's almost movie perfection.
Does your mum and dad?
Yeah. They died just before I was 12. I'm trying to write about them at the moment.
How's it going?
Strangely. Hi.
Hi.
And my number 1 for 2024 is All of Us Strangers. I declared at the time that this film would get a place on my greatest of all time list, so it should come as no surprise that this gets my number 1 slot for the year. It features pitch perfect performances from Andrew Scott and Paul Mescal as 2 lonely men in a gay relationship, but it also has elements of mystical time travel that just work so perfectly. Claire Foy and Jamie Bell co-star as Adam's long dead parents and play their 1980s attitudes just perfectly. A scene where Claire Foy is singing along to You Were Always on My Mind while decorating a Christmas tree ranks as my number 1 standout scene from any film in 2024. Just immensely moving. All of Us Strangers is available to stream at the moment on Disney+. If you haven't seen it, do so. So that's a wrap for my 2024 at the movies, but watch out for a special episode of Flickering Dreams where my list will get mashed together with my 3 film reviewing compadres to create our combined top 20. A happy new year to you, and thanks for continuing to follow One Man's Movies. Your support and positive comments are always very much appreciated.